you have this almost like legendary status about you in certain circles like PSI and such like that because you've been doing it for so long.
Yeah. Shit, we should be doing the podcast right now.
We are.
Are we?
We kind of are, yeah.
Oh, okay. Are we live?
Yeah, I started recording.
We've been recording for like 20 minutes.
So yeah, the funny part of that is it's actually a recent conversation I've been having. This quasi stoicism, if you will, and I say quasi because it's rooted in a lot of anger. And so the old Ted 1.0 was a really angry, can we swear?
Yeah.
Fucker. So it was funny because even in the side journey, so a lot of people got to become, I don't know if that's correct English, but became kind of scared of me or intimidated by me. And that still kind of permeates into my life now, which I'm not sure if it used to aggravate me. I'm not sure if it aggravates me anymore because it for me now, I use it as a filter. Like, okay, does he or she fit or not? And if they're scared of me, that gives me a few seconds to figure out whether they belong, in my sphere or not.
Posturing, sizing up.
Huh?
You're posturing and sizing up.
No, like the thing is, I very much did it intentionally when I was younger, or initially. I don't do that anymore, and so that's where the annoying part became annoying, was because like I'm not that guy anymore. Like I'm not intentionally barking orders or anything to get my point across. Like I could just literally walk in a room and intimidate or suck the air out of the room, but now I'm kind of liking it. I'm at this stage in my 50s now that I'm looking at it going, that's more about them than me. And at the same time, perhaps this gives me an opportunity to filter this person out, like figure out, like, do they really belong? Because at 50, and I know that I'm a little older than you two, but I'll tell you what, I'm at a stage like I really don't give a shit about a lot of stuff right now. Like I do and I don't. Like I'm filtering a lot of things that just don't belong in my life now, and so I'm finding peace in that. It's like, okay, does this bring me peace? Does this bring me comfort, love, and all the things that I want in my life, or does it not? And if this person is so hung up on themselves that they're gonna judge me based on whatever experience without really getting to know me, well, they got a choice there, right? They can scram, or they can sit down and talk to me and realize that I'm not a big angry bear. In fact, I'm a teddy bear, right? Ted, get it?
I always thought the odor.
Yeah.
So that's Theodore, right? The odor. Okay, sorry.
So I'm not sure if I just went on a rant right there, but yeah, that's kind of been my experience as of late, especially as of late.
I've had a lot of experience in that as well, when like I've realized that I act pissed off and gruff and all that, salty veteran at the lead, and then I've realized that I will have people kind of apply to me, and if they stick around and
right.
deal through all of the poisoning the well of saying, oh, well, I'm an asshole and blah, 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 to excuse, and this is for me, my shitty behavior, right? Then if they stick around, it's like, all right, I got a ride or die on my hands, like we can be friends.
Yeah.
And, I've definitely done that quite a bit, and in doing personal development, I was like, why am I doing all this posturing and being a prick and just the stereotypical combat vet and this and that, and I'm fucking angry all the time, and like it's just not necessary.
Do you know who you're talking to?
Right. I'm sure I've said that. Yes. And so I can definitely see that as like kind of putting people on the back foot to make them appeal to you or apply to you, so that they can be accepted, and then you're kind of in control of the relationship, especially in the early stages of the relationship, right? And again, for me, I found that I was kind of doing that to preface my shitty behavior in the future, and it's just not a fucking way for me to live. And I'm not saying that's the same thing that you were doing.
No, but I get it.
I have a lot of just hardcore loyal friends that have seen like, yeah, he's an asshole, but fuck, is he a loyal dude?
Right,
you know,
right.
boy, he'll really go to the ends of the earth for the people that he cares about.
Right.
And, you know, it was kind of a way to separate the wheat from the chaff, if you will.
Yeah.
To keeping people at bay that, you know, are just tourists in the experience with me and my life.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think I totally relate with that. I put emphasis on that. So let's just call it intentional, if you will, doing that, where I'm not intentional anymore. And I guess that's what I was trying to say. I still have that reputation, if you will, and that reputation follows me whether I like it or not. However, what I like about it now is that it's not intentional, and it's just not intentional. And so it becomes more about them than me, and I don't have to look over my shoulder anymore about it. Like, you know, are you being a jerk, Ted? Are you being rough? And so definitely still always working on it, right? Still always making sure that that asshole, if you will, doesn't come out of the woodwork. But to your question, I wanted to kind of circle back to your initial question or statement. I have this legendary status around the personal development world. That's a good segue to probably a lot of things that we may or may not talk about today. But I would get phone calls like in the middle of the night and from people like all over the country at times that had no idea who they were. They were just like, oh, Brandon referred me to you. Right. He said that I should talk to you. I'm dealing with this or I'm dealing with that. My wife or my husband, for that matter, we're ready to break up, or this, or my son. And I always had this like natural knack for giving people the advice that they needed, not necessarily expected. And so what I mean by that, I could be very harsh. However, I give it to people straight. And so over time, what I would say is that over time I've softened that stance because, again, that was part of that intentional assholeness, if you will. And I softened the stance to a degree where it became very ineffective. And I was invited or challenged to bring some of him back. And I didn't know how to do that once I kind of let go of him, because I realized there was a lot of baggage and so forth tied into that person. And so over time, I've learned on how to bring some of that guy back, because there's a lot of good stuff about that guy. You know, the brash part, and actually we gave it a name, MC Brash. So I learned how to bring MC Brash back into the fold and be able to, if you will, probably a good statement is step into my power, right? Versus weaponizing it, versus just being MC Brash and in all his glory, right? Without the intentional whacking of the head. So yeah, that's kind of been my reputation for quite some time.
Yeah. Well, Brandon and I have both done your organization, your course, Men to Kings, and I've definitely seen both of those sides of you.
Yeah.
On, you know, some harsh realities that I just wasn't ready to accept, and
Yeah.
I was like, shit, this guy's right. Dang it. You know, and the legacy that you have currently with like some of the communities that I'm a part of, Psi seminars and such, you're considered to be kind of an OG in those realms of like men's leadership and stuff like that. And, you know, then there's these people that are just considered like, whoa, you've met that guy. and like, these are your cohorts. Like, these are people that you go on trips with and hang out with.
Right.
And men that I would love to have on as well. Not going to name any names,
sure.
you know, in case they say no. However, but I mean, I was just talking about you with somebody else that's very much, he's a Golden Eagle member and Psi, and I was like, oh yeah, tonight we're interviewing Ted Kanto, and he's like, oh, I've heard of that guy, I've never met him, and I'm like, of course you have, it's freaking Ted Kanto.
Yeah.
And
legend,
myth, the legend of Ted Kanto. I think we just found the title for this one. But no, like you've been doing Men to Kings for a couple years now.
Yeah, three going on 3.5 now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I did it coming out of a brutal breakup, and it helped me unpack a lot of things that now in my current relationship I'm applying. And like even literally last night I was talking with my girlfriend about a little situation because we went on this haunted ghost town, Goldfield ghost town thing with her daughter, and her daughter started crying, and she's picking her up, carrying her out, and I was like, babe, you should put her down. We're going up steps and stuff like this. And she goes, no, and I was like, okay. And I just kind of moved on. Right. And she was talking to me, and she goes, like, cause we were unpacking it last night and just having a decent conversation. And I was like, well, yeah, you know, I didn't agree with it cause I was more concerned about your safety. So, you know, I just turned and walked away, and she's like, yeah, you seemed a little frustrated. I was like, I was, but you know, old Ted Kanto actually taught me, don't jump in front of a speeding train. Like there is no need for that. And I was like, for the sake of what would I, in a group of 20 something people, go like, well, no, you need to put her down because there's rattlesnakes out here and there's steps and we're coming out of a mine and all of this, and cause her to get on the defensive and so on and so forth. And so like, I'm applying these things to my current relationship. And so as brutal as that breakup was, I went through your course. It gave me a lot of things that I'm implementing currently that have led to me having a very successful relationship with my woman. And, you know, Brandon's seen it. I mean, you've seen a little bit of it. We don't communicate poorly. Like we have good conversation, and, you know, we stay out of each other's train tracks as well. So that was a phenomenal lesson for me to learn. Yeah. And, you know, that was one of those brutal ones that you gave me that I was like, oh shit, I am doing that, aren't I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like speeding train for me, I created more of the speeding trains than she ever threw at me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time I was like, huh, how did I just make that? I did. Wow, I really did. That one was on me.
Right.
Cool. Good thing I jumped out of the way ASAP because I took this little course called Men to Kings and learned about speeding trains.
But I think it's really important to interject just for a second here. I don't mean to steal your thunder. For the men who are going to be listening to this, they're probably going to wonder, like, what the hell are they talking about? And what I will say very, very, very briefly is it is the tool that will get you either laid or not laid.
Yep. That's very accurate.
That concept of, you know, do you want to be happy or do you want to be right?
Right.
Do you want to get laid or do you want to,
right,
you know,
right.
Do you want to be right?
Right.
What, if you don't mind, would you mind explaining the concept of the speeding train?
Well, yeah. Okay. So it all stems from childhood trauma, right? Or experiences. And so it doesn't even necessarily have to be something so dramatic as like abuse or molestation or anything. It's just whatever stories we might have created with either the same sex or the opposite sex. And we'll create stories based on those experiences and carry them over to our relationships, whether with our partner, our wives, our children, our friends. And oftentimes, like you said, that's a good example. You know, put the kid down. You know, like, is that really a fight that you want to get involved in? And what is it all about? Like, and oftentimes when we dig deep enough, we'll find that we are causing that mayhem for whatever reason that story compels us to. And even if the other person was doing something, you know, stupid, just let's call it that, and really dumb, and yes, they were possibly putting themselves in harm's way, why is it that we or I handle that situation in such a way that just exacerbates that situation or aggravates it even more, where I can actually manage it a lot more effectively by not approaching it that way, right? Like, and that would be me. I was the master of it. It's like, I told you, and I probably had all the right answers and all the wrong delivery, you know, and I brought that delivery with anger or or in public and humiliate my partner or my friend or whatever have you. It's just, like, I mean, talking it out loud, like, it's common sense. It ain't gonna go well, right? And so if we start looking at that and wanting to step in front of the speeding train, knowing that really it's not going to go well, I mean, it's kind of like what is it? What's the term? The definition of insanity? It's kind of like
Doing the same thing over and over
yeah.
again and expecting a different result.
Yeah, and then I just found that I just kept getting steamrolled by this train called my wife or my kids or my friends or my business environment, and all the while. Not getting the results that I expected, right? Because I had the right answers. And that's the funny part. Sometimes we will have the right answers, but it doesn't matter. What matters is the way that we behave or the way that we communicate. And so, the speeding train, avoiding the speeding train is just all about me and how I manage myself in that situation. Like I said, sure, a lot of external forces are at bay that I have no control over, and my desire to control them causes really bad results. So
well, you also had said at one point, like, you can jump in front of the train, but that train's not even going to slow down.
No.
It's not going to notice you ever hit it. Like,
No.
It's a speeding train.
Yeah.
And that was super impactful for me because I was like, yeah, I'm just harming myself.
Yeah.
I'm not changing the trajectory of that train. It is on its tracks. It is speeding. I am but a man.
Yeah.
Right? And not saying that men aren't capable of powerful things, but it's definitely one of those, like, pick your battles kind of things.
Absolutely.
And in that moment, from the example that I was giving, yeah, I don't need to embarrass my partner in front of 20-something people. I don't need to give her a lesson about how to walk through the desert. Like, what? That's crazy.
Right.
Shut up. Huff and puff if you need to. And then from there, you can discuss it later when there's not energy, when there's not people around.
Correct.
And when we did, it was just a calm, stoic conversation where I was just like, yeah, Ted Mendy Kings taught me that one.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, that's so good. And I was like, yes. So,
Cha-ching.
yeah. No, you're super appreciated in my household and saved me from, I'm sure, many a lonely nights.
Yes, absolutely.
By learning to not be right all the damn time.
It's one of my other hats, Cupid. I'm
Cupid?
I'm a Cupid.
Right.
Getting dudes laid one class at a time.
Right,
Yes,
right.
yes.
Men to Kings. Check the website if you're trying to get laid. Use discount code.
Trying to get laid. It's a long discount though.
So on top of that, so you call your classes rooks, right? And
Yeah.
I was in, I think, Rook 5.
Yeah.
And when I went through Rook 5, after graduating, I ended up going and spending some time with my father. And how apropos, towards the graduation of Men to Kings and getting just some time to spend with my dad. And we worked on this. And I feel like I'm giving you some art that is not finished yet. However, I did want to give this to you.
Oh. So okay. So can I show it?
Yeah, just make sure it's the right way up.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. So there's an M and there's a 2 and a K.
There you go.
And I don't know what that is down there though.
That's the king. That's your logo.
Oh yes,
That
yes
is
it
your
is.
logo.
Yes it is.
Yeah.
Got it. The king's face and then the M2K. Got it.
And then the knot just kind of showed up beautifully in there, and it makes it
Yeah.
look like he has a big scar on his eye. I love
Oh, I
it.
like it. Thank you. I appreciate this.
Yeah, we attempted to put a backer on there that you could end up mounting on a wall, and it
That's all
just
right.
ended up digging it out. However, I'm glad and proud to finally give that to you. So.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. I like that.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna touch it.
Don't touch it too much.
Zon actually sent me the vector files for that while I was there so that I could
Okay.
get that, and it was all like 3D printed, or not 3D printed, but lasered out and
Lasered
everything
out.
like that. So
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
man.
Edward. Eddie. He has 3 names.
I have the energy.
I'm nervous. No, I'm
Yeah,
joking.
he's
I have-
getting clammy over here.
I have
everybody.
the energy on Ed because it was
I know you
always
do.
my parents when I was in trouble were like, Ed, God damn it, And so I'm like, When people call me Ed, I just go back to that like in trouble little boy. And I'm like,
dun, dun, dun. What did I do?
Right.
Right on. So, we were kind of jumping into something. The speeding train.
Yeah.
Right. That was something that I actually not the concept itself, but that's something that I explored in therapy for myself, and because the result of that was a lot of anger. It was just always anger. It was, however it sounded, whatever reasoning, whatever end result, it all circled around anger, and so digging through that and wondering why it was anger always my first go-to. Again, having the right answers, having the wrong answers, having lame brain situations, having life and death situations. Why did I always have to go and revert to anger as my first go-to? So over time, working on that, I that's where the speeding train came up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, you were discussing earlier about how you just had a birthday and you said, I'm a bit older than you guys, I'm getting there. And one of the questions that I have that I like is how has your understanding of masculinity changed as you've gotten older? Because it seems like you had this persona of anger, and if I'm the hardest motherfucker in the room, then I'm the man.
Yeah.
And as you get older, I as well have come to realize, like, I would rather be the push from behind than the hey motherfuckers get over here type of man.
Yeah. So I explain it, and I get a lot of confused looks when I explain this. So what you're asking basically is what's the difference between being macho and being masculine? And I spent most of my life being macho. And so what is macho? If we look at the macho persona or personality, it's a lot of bravado, a lot of look at me, a lot of don't mess with me, I'll kick your ass. And if we look at that, it's a very emotional, very feminine. And when we say feminine, it's more not girly or anything. It's more of an emotional response. So when we're using the word feminine, that's what we're talking about. It's a very feminine mindset. It's look at me and look at how tough I am. And versus masculine, it's not really caring about looking at me versus am I making the right decisions? Am I making taking the right course of action under pressure, under fire? When do I apply my feminine traits appropriately? That's also masculine. Just the thought of that, right? Like, is this some time where I kind of soften up with my daughter because she's going through something, or my wife? Right. Versus being macho, it's like, oh, really? We're going to talk about this again? That doesn't go well. And so, again, though, that's fueled by anger. Right. So I'm not sure if I'm answering the question though, but that's the difference. That's what I've seen differently, and it's sometimes challenging because I spent a long part of my life being macho, right. And confusing that. And I think most people, I will be as bold as say most of society confuses the idea of what masculinity is, right. And they confuse it with macho, and they don't even know that there's a difference. And so a lot of times they hear the word masculinity and for a lot of people it's toxic, right? Or it's not a good thing, right? And because they've had such large doses of machoism, if you will.
Right. So. And that's like a huge thing for me that I've noticed is the loud, tough guys are always the ones that are posturing because they're scared. Yeah. They think that if up front they go, then you better not challenge me, then people won't challenge them and expose them for not being as tough as they claim to be, right? And so the macho man versus the masculine man is capable of sitting back, assessing a situation, looking at it stoically, void of emotion, and men don't tend to behave well when they're emotional.
No.
Now,
But let me say something.
Yeah.
I'll challenge you on the. Sometimes those macho men aren't weak. They will kick your ass.
Sure.
They will run you over. However, the end result of that, right, is not good. Like you were kind of alluding to, it's not good. The end result is like, oh, I just killed a man. Oh, I just damaged my daughter, or
Right.
damaged the relationship that I have with my wife or my son or whatever. So, but some of those guys are tough,
Yeah.
but it's not. It doesn't equate to masculine.
right. I'm speaking more on the whole, as it's typically the loudest guy is the most scared
Yeah.
of them all, right? Um, and it's all just in that posturing. And so, if you know me, you know that I constantly shit all over Andrew Tate because I think he's doing a massive disservice for men out there. And yet, in the same right, I think he's also doing a service, and he knows his niche audience of these men who don't understand masculinity, these men that are on the cusp of possibly ending it.
Yeah.
And then they go, wait, all women are whores, and I'm
find
bitter
empowering.
and this and that, right? And so in that moment, he might be saving them from harming themselves or someone else,
Yeah.
but he's not pushing society along. He's not like, people have asked me, why are we doing this podcast? And I'm like, because I want to guide men into stoicism. I want to guide men into masculinity that is healthy. And I used to turn my nose up to the statement of toxic masculinity, but I still do,
Yeah.
because that is the absolute lack of masculinity.
Yeah. That is a lack. There's no such thing as toxic. Yeah.
Right. Toxic macho man.
Yes.
You know, and that is super gross. And like, I don't think there's very many people out there that would consider me to be a soft dude or something like that. But in the same right, like, I got a little 8-year-old that I'm out here raising, and I'm having to figure out a way to be scanning the room, and not trying to be a tough guy, but ready to face any threat that comes at me or any that I'm capable of seeing, right? And then also be able to shut that protector aspect off of me and go into a feminine nurture mode and be like, hey kiddo, you doing all right? And make sure that little 8-year-old is okay, because it's important right now.
And it's a weird one, what you just explained, because although it requires some feminine attributes, it's still being masculine, because and I know we've had some conversations around this in the past, if we're being masculine, we're also protectors of the people that we love, their emotional safety. Right. And so while you're softening your stance, you're also in your masculine making sure that she feels emotionally safe.
For sure.
So it's that balance, which can be very confusing for a lot of guys. In fact, it is.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why, I've pushed tons of people to go to Men to Kings, because there is the unpacking of those things. There is a dynamic that we're all living with, and some of us are really struggling with it, to understand what it is to be masculine. And to that note alone, that like, you're protecting her well-being or his well-being at a young age, because these are formative years, right?
Right.
I did, and if we need to blur this out, we can, but and, there was a statement in there where they said, a man's role in his son's life is to prepare him for the world, not teach him, not give him, but prepare him for a hard world. And then a man's role in his daughter's life is to show her an example of the man that she's to accept when she gets older. And, my situation is a pretty dynamic situation where, I'm raising someone else's daughter, and, even if her mom and I are not seeing eye to eye or something like that, which has been amazingly a rarity, then I have to go, wait, I'm setting an example for this girl. And I can do battle with myself right now, kill my ego, and discuss this the right way and communicate these things the right way right now. Or when I'm 50 something, you know, I'm going to go beat up her boyfriends or something, like, because she's chasing men that are aggressive, or she's chasing men that treat her like shit.
Right.
And so, you know, we have a hardline stance that even if we're not seeing eye to eye, even if we're not, you know, feeling each other's energy at that time, we still end the night by praying, all three of us together, and talking about what we love about each other. And B, we don't have those, you know, knockdown dragouts or even bad disagreements in front of her, because she should not be seeing that, because I want her to grow up to be a queen and only accept kings. And there's a lot of princes out there that are just shitheads in a kingdom, right?
Right.
So I don't want to have to deal with those later. I'd rather deal with myself and make myself a better man now than have to deal with her having some type of issue in the future.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So strong proponent for Men to Kings. I loved the course myself, and you know, one of the reasons I was super excited to be able to have you on tonight.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Agreed.
Thanks.
I haven't said anything in a while, so I
No,
feel
you
like I have to
haven't.
say
It's like, is that it?
No,
Okay.
You guys have been, you guys have really been
Dynamic.
Yeah. I'm just,
Okay.
I mean, you were talking about like when you were younger, you had this like macho type of thing.
Well, you know, and it comes with the territory. This is probably a really long conversation, but I'll be quick. Things really do happen in the world, right? We know that. And so I grew up my initial years as a young kid, I would say somewhere around somewhere between 5 and 9 years old. I lived in a neighborhood in New York City, in Brooklyn, where, if for those listening or watching, if you remember or watched the movie The Warriors, that was my neighborhood. I still remember the gang. They were called the Sex Survivors. And I watched like little rumbles, like in the movie, chains, knives, and everything else.
Right.
And so I grew up in that neighborhood, and then we left and we went to Massachusetts to only go not in. It was still wild, and I lived in this town called Lynn. It's a pretty tough town. Think the movie The Town, or even Good Will Hunting. That was my upbringing, and the city that I lived in, it was called Lynn, City of Sin. You don't come out the way you went in. That was our motto.
Yeah.
And it's still a tough town today. And so part of all that bravado, a lot of that toughness, that it came with the territory. It happened, and I had to fight for my big wheel. I mean, I share that story. I had to fight for my big wheel. It was stolen from me from the neighbors down the street. My brothers grabbed me by the neck, dragged me down the street, and said, "Go get them." And I fought two of them, and they were beating me. They were beating the pulp out of me, and I tried to run and cry. My brother snatched me by the neck again and threw me back in the fight until I won the fight. I beat the living shit out of him and got my big wheel. In fact, it wasn't a big wheel. It was the green machine. You remember the green machines?
Yeah,
No, I'm probably too old, but
No, I know what you're talking about.
yeah, I had a green machine, and so I got my green machine back, and that was in Brooklyn, and then in Lynn, it was just constant fighting, man. It was, you know, I got scars on my body to some of that stuff, and so some of those things do happen, and then you find yourself and you don't recognize who you are, or you recognize who you are. You know, like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I so angry? Why am I always fighting? Like, why am I always swimming upstream when I don't need to? Right. And so that's the, you know, so the reality is that sometimes life happens and we become somebody, and at some later point in life, it doesn't apply anymore.
Right.
You know?
So at like, say 16 to 18, if you could have a sit down with 16 to 18-year-old Ted Kanto, like, keeping in mind that a big part of that is just survival, right? What kind of advice would you give him moving forward?
Oh, damn. I never thought about that one, because I went in the military towards that age. Stop stealing cars. Stop stealing cars. Stop. But I was alone. I'm not sure what I would say to him because I don't know. I don't live that life anymore, and I don't know. I was alone. At 16, I was very alone. My mother was always working. My stepfather was very abusive. My brothers and my sisters had gone from the house at an early age. They had just, early. Like they were out of the house at 14. I don't think any of them passed the age of 14. They were on their own outside of the house, and so I was the last one, and dealt with a lot of abuse. And so, I found comfort in the streets. So, it'd be tough. Like for me to kind of have a conversation with him, I don't know. I've never been asked that question, because I know looking at him, there was really not a lot of people he could turn to, other than the people that he did turn to, right? Which were the streets, the people that that accompanied him in his adventures.
You say people with the same kind of trauma.
Yeah. So it'd be tough to give him. I feel like if, really where I'm going in my head, I feel like if I sat down with him, he'd probably tell me to fuck off. Yeah. Honestly. And then came 18, and I did a 3 to 4, I don't remember how many days, but it was at least 3 nights, a 3 to 4 night bender, just doing drugs. And in my mind, in my way of thinking, I believe it was God on the 3rd or 4th day, and he said, "Get the hell out of Dodge." And I remember marching my way over to the recruitment station and walking in and going, "Where do I sign? I want to be in the Army." and half drugged out. and the recruiter, that's kind of like a wet dream for like recruiters, for those of you that are in
Here's
the
your pen.
Yeah. Like, hey, get a pen, hurry up. You got one.
Before his mom tells him no. Yeah.
And so yeah, that was Ted back then. So I'm not, it's a hard question, but good one.
How did joining the Army change your perspective on masculinity and just living a life as a man?
There was no masculinity. There was a lot of anger. It helped me channel my anger in the moment. Didn't get rid of it, but it helped me channel it in a positive direction. And they wanted that anger, right? That's what they do when you first enlist. They're training killers. And so it was a perfect environment. It was like perfect. It was just pure. You got this angry kid from the streets. Like we're teaching them how to kill. Awesome. Like, it's like bonus.
Yeah. Exactly what the equation is.
Yes.
He's already on the path. Just a few adjustments. We're good.
Yeah. Just show them how to load a gun.
Yeah. And you actually did some shit in the Army, right?
Yeah. And so the funny thing was, real quick, so laser sharp focus. So during my school years, I was put in the dummy class, in and out. We called it the dummy class, right? And in and out, because they couldn't figure me out. They were like, "Well, he's excelling. Like he can't be here. We got to put him back in Gen Pop."
Right.
Gen Pop, I wasn't functioning, and they would put me back in the dummy class. So I was like back and forth. And I was a product of the school system, that kid that they just wanted to graduate no matter what. And I remember graduating with like D's and F's, like the skin of my teeth. And they got rid of me, and that's kind of when I went into that drug bender and stuff like that. But anyways, laser focus back to the military. I took my ASVAB, and I scored tremendously high. Now at the moment, I didn't know that, right? But I remember clearly them going, "You can write your ticket. What do you want to do?" And I was just like, "What do I want to do? I want to get out of Dodge, right? That's all I know. That's what I want." And they're like, so of course they're putting me in all these combat roles, right? And so again, totally oblivious. I'm just like, point my finger, and I sign up for Ranger School.
Yes, sir.
And so I went through all of that, and then I ended up taking that career and going to Desert Storm and into Kuwait. But I still didn't know. What's crazy is looking back, I still didn't know the genius in all of this, right? What was going on? So Then I end up fast forward a little bit. I ended up getting out, and I get into college, and again, that's a long story which I won't go into. But first year of college, they put me into advanced algebra, which is literally like pre-calculus or whatever, right? And I aced it, and so still didn't get it, right? I still don't understand, like, what's this thing going on, if you haven't figured it out. Like, I'm going back to being dummy and smart, and then fast forward to personal development. Someone challenges me one time in PSI and says, hey, you should probably go down and get yourself tested at the Met Center. She had an autistic child. It's a center here in Phoenix that's very renowned around the country for autistic children. Well, I'm like, I'm not autistic. She's like, no, but they also deal with ADHD. And so I go do this test, which is really kind of like a bizarre test. And then the doctor at the end, it was like a 2-hour, 3-hour examination. She says, do you see things like way ahead of schedule? Like, do you foresee things? I'm like, all the time.
Yeah.
Do you get yourself in trouble because of it? I'm like, all the time.
Yeah.
Like I can see things coming, and I'll tell people, and they're like, fuck you, who do you think you are? And that still kind of happens to me now. Sometimes I learn how to shut up because I let it play out, right? But I can still see things like, that ain't gonna go well. This is gonna A, B, and C is gonna happen. And so there's my genius, but it comes with ADHD. And so and people with ADD or ADHD, they are extremely brilliant people. The problem is that they're going so fast, they don't know how to slow down and see and smell the roses and see the details that matter sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And so that's been kind of my life. So I got all of this genius going on, but I always find myself in trouble somehow.
No, I have to. When I first started dating my girlfriend, like, her daughter is ADHD, and I am ADHD as can possibly be.
Yeah.
Even in my email you can see that,
Yeah.
right? And I've found that neurodivergence, ADHD, is 100% a superpower.
Yeah.
And it's about having, like, I explained it to my girlfriend, I think this morning actually, is that, and this sounds arrogant, however, it's like having a supercomputer in your brain.
Yeah.
Where you're running multiple things at the same time, processing 4 different thoughts at the same time.
Yeah.
And you're attempting to do all that you can to sync those together so that they make sense when you go, the ham sandwiches. And they're like, what? And you're like, oh, sorry, you said this. And I went here. Like, I refer to it as like a string thought.
Yeah.
Because it strings into the next one. And so, like, oftentimes somebody will just say something about, like, oh yeah, that's a really cool barbed wire cross you have there on the wall. And I'm like, yeah, my buddy gave that to me from his family's like 150-year-old ranch, and that's like 150-year-old barbed wire or something like that. And man, I haven't seen that guy in a while. I know he got cancer at one point, and I heard he actually moved kind of closer to me. And then I'll just be like, yeah, no, he's right down the street.
Yeah.
And what? Let me explain that whole path that I just went down. It happens just in a split second.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to be able to utilize that, because then you have thoughts that most people don't have, because you're thinking about, like I said, 4 things at once, right?
Yeah.
And if you mitigate the downsides of ADHD, I mean, as you walk down the hall, you see whiteboards hanging up in my hallway because it's like reminders of constant things, right? Mm-hmm. There is, like, if I have to remember something that I need to take with me, I will literally place it in front of the door so that I will trip on it if I attempt to avoid it, because those are the types of things that people with ADHD don't register, is like remembering stuff like that. Mm-hmm. However, play to your strengths, right?
Yeah.
Memory is not my strength. So,
well, what comes to mind too, kind of going back to Men to Kings a little bit, is a lot of what we talk about, having tenets and having purpose, defining those things and being able to write those things down. It's very much like that when having ADHD. Like, it's like, okay, I got to write these things down so that I could stay on course and on mission. Now taking the ADHD, removing that from the conversation, and going back into what Meant to Kings, part of it, what it's about, it's knowing what our tenets are, our boundaries, aka boundaries, our purpose, having rules set up for life, where most men in specific don't have those.
Yeah.
And so sure, we both have ADHD, and we need those whiteboards and those reminders. However, it goes farther than just having ADHD. It's people who don't, like,
Right.
I mean, you guys know this. There's still people still inside the community that still haven't written them down
Right.
2 years later, right? Because
Right.
they're still struggling with it, because 40, 50, 60. I mean, I think we now have somebody we have a couple of people in the 70s, right? Who lived most of their lives without any boundaries, with not knowing any purpose.
Right.
And it could be very, very confusing, scary, but extremely powerful knowing those things. And so it's, I use that masculine. I use that as part of my masculinity, and I also use it as a tool for my ADHD, because now I have enough awareness to slow it down, where I immediately will go, yes, Edward, I'll do it, and then like, oh wait, hold on a second, I kind of told you guys I did that just today, right? Or yesterday. I was
Yeah.
I'll do the podcast. I'm like, it's my birthday. I don't know if my wife might have a party for me, but
Right.
so I worked through it, but yeah, it's something that's very powerful. It's having that life set up by design, like, okay, this is how I roll, this is how I function, this is how I think, this is how I make decisions and be intentional. It's helped me a lot. So
Yeah. If you could give a question to the next person, what would you want that question to be? No idea who it's going to be.
Heal. Are you healing? Are you working on healing? One of the things I think, again, specifically in context of Men to Kings, one of the things I think the macho male gets really hung up on is that everything's okay. We talk about that in the class and in our chats. Everything's good, and no, it's not fucking good, asshole. Right. Stop saying that. I get that life has seemed good, or we're stuck in the rigmarole of what your life looks like. However, it's not good. There's healing to be had, and what I would say, are you healing? That would be the question to that. Are you healing? And then obviously the conversation would expand. And because I don't think enough people are aware that there's healing to be had.
Yeah.
I know I didn't.
Right. And how long did you go without knowing that?
Most of your adult life?
Most of my adult life. At least 40 years.
Yeah.
Even after personal growth. Because I for me, and from some others that I've spoken to, I think some of us have believed that we go through this course in personal development and we're going to magically have these tools that, just change our lives. And they do definitely shift things, but we also are crafty fuckers, and we'll manipulate. And so I would say it took me at least 40 years, if not a little bit more, to finally go, okay, I got to stop manipulating the tools that I've learned. And there's definitely tools that I have that I'm not using. And why not? So it's that.
Do you think that you started Men to Kings to kind of give back to a community that's given to you, like the personal development community, that you saw still a need out there to save men from struggling through the stuff that you had to struggle through for 40 years? And that motivated you to then create this course that helps men to understand these things?
I would love to say that was my initial, but it's not. It was a little bit more selfish than that. It had a lot to do with my son. Okay. It started there. It started with my son, and then yes, eventually it turned into. I think this is a conversation that a lot of men should be having.
Yeah.
But it was really mostly around my son. I was raising my son, as if he was living in Lynn, Massachusetts. And frankly, I've worked my life to get the hell away from that and live in Gilbert, Arizona. And so my wife called me out on that, and I realized, like, wow, like I'm raising my son to be an animal, you know, like to be a beast, if you will. And he doesn't need to be a beast. He needs to be a healthy man. And so that was the reason why I started going down this road. And then realizing that, yeah, there's enough men not having this conversation. In fact, I will be bold that most men don't have this conversation. Even when I ask that question, have you had that conversation with your dad? Most men will kind of get squirrely, like, yeah. And I'm like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. Well, I learned something. I'm like, yeah, of course you learned some things from your dad, but you never really had a conversation. He goes, no. I'm like, yeah. So that's really the mission, is to be able to help men have that conversation. And I facetiously say, like, yeah, this is the conversation we're going to have that you never had with your dad. So let's go. And then my hope is that we can then carry that on to our kids, right? And have those actually have those conversations.
But see, I don't even see that to be a selfish move. Like, your come from is to raise a young man that didn't have to go through the things that you went through. That's still an outwardly focused motivator.
I agree with that completely. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's
well, I'm just saying it was
selfish.
when I say selfish, it just wasn't. It was never in my mind like, I'm going to put this together because I put it together for myself. It was just more just myself, and then I realized, like, oh, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to test it out on some lab rats. And I did. In fact, some of the men that I looked up to, the men that mentored me in my personal growth journey, were in the first class. You know? And so,
So if somebody has watched this podcast, they're interested in taking your course, being on the next Rook or so on, how would they be able to look that up, contact you, get information on Men to Kings?
Well, you can go to the website. It's men2, so men2kings.com. And we usually have at least one Rook per quarter. That'll probably change. However, right now it's about one per quarter. And all my contact information is there, so they could always reach out to me. It always starts off with a one-on-one conversation, because I like to get to know where they're at, as far as whether they're even coachable or not. Right. There's plenty of people I've had conversations with that after that conversation, I didn't bother calling them back, and they didn't bother calling me back. Yeah. Because for whatever reason, I will be judging and say, I know that they would probably flourish in the community, and not discounting them. It's just they're not open to some new ideas, and the other, I can only imagine they probably told me to fuck off somewhere in their head.
I feel like if somebody's going to be in that space and they're intentionally not coachable, that's going to get in the way of what other people are going to take from the class who are there willing to be coachable. Yeah. I think the vetting process is pretty important. So I think it's valuable that you do that. You'd rather have 8 or 10 people in the class than 50 if those 8 or 10 are actually there, right? Versus 50 and 42 of them are not really.
Yeah. And there's some cases that I wish that they did call me back. You know what I mean? Like there are people that, I mean, I hear you and I agree with you. There's definitely been some of those. And there's some like, man, I really wish this guy would have called me back. I think he could have really gotten some value out of this. And what's crazy is that, and you guys know this, and it's hard to convey that with someone that you don't really know, or they don't really know me. It's not me that really brings all of that value to that person, that man's life. It's the community. I mean, having these conversations with other men is extremely powerful. There's not a Saturday that any of us go onto these calls and walk away going, well, that sucked. Like most of them go, every Saturday we walk away like, oh shit.
Explain to the audience what you're talking about, the Saturday call.
So part of the class involves a mastermind. On Saturdays, we get up every morning on Zoom. There's men from all around the country, and we jump on and we have on video, and we have conversations about life insurance, all the way to masturbation, to porn addiction, to raising our sons and our daughters, to how do you cook roast beef on the grill? I mean, just we have very extensive conversations around stuff that men tend to get surfacey outside of this arena. Like we we're, you know, I always use the analogy or the scenario of the barbecue. Men are always in a circle talking about football, very superficial type stuff, or we're just busy posturing and going, well, I'm doing good. And then we shut up. Whereas then you see the women over at the table and they're chatting about everything. Life experiences, the brand new purse they bought or whatever, but they're sharing, they're communicating, they're connecting. And so Saturday calls is an opportunity for men to connect at a level where we don't get to connect. And we want to connect, we just don't. And what I learned as a recent, men are judgy as fuck. I never really realized how it's kind of weird that I realized this as of like the last 2 months. Where's catty as women? It's really weird, you know. Like women are like, well, look at you, those shoes look horrible. We don't do that though. We just stay in our head and go,
douchebag.
Fuck Eddie.
Yeah.
Fuck him. The fact that he bought his Corvette. I don't need a Corvette.
Right.
You know, like
right.
we just stay in our head and we just posture and just shake our heads, you know, and then that's it. And we go home and we stay with that and we don't share that. And that eventually over time festers and create, you know, feeds into our anger and everything else that goes on in our head. But yeah, men are really fucking catty.
I just feel like we're not as outwardly sassy because if I start getting, if I'm in judgment and what you're talking about, and I start to get verbal about it, depending on who I'm getting verbal with, might get checked, might get that reset button right in the middle of the face.
Yeah.
You know, that's, and women just don't generally operate that way.
No.
Right.
No.
And so I feel like for me, like, yeah, if I'm in judgment, hard judgment, I got energy on somebody and what they're doing, what they're saying, yeah, I'm likely going to keep it to myself unless there's a tenet that's being crossed, in which case, okay, I'm going to address that. But for the most part, it's more operationally efficient to not get sassy.
Yeah. But that's the reason for the King's Corner. And that's the Saturday call.
Yes.
That's the Saturday call. Is that we get to discuss, we call it the mask. We get to discuss the mask. Like, why is it that we're hiding behind that mask? Why is it that I get to hang out with Eddie and Brandon and I really don't like them? Right. Yeah. That's an important question, right?
Question.
Like, why am I always going to their barbecues? Because of my wife? Like, I could easily just tell my wife, hey, I don't want to go there anymore. Right. But why am I not doing it? Why am I constantly getting myself in front of that speeding train? Right. And so we talk about everything at such a level that it blows everybody's mind at the end of the call.
So I always particularly enjoy King's Corner during a class, because during the class, it's mandatory, you have to do it, right? And there's a lot to learn and experience as someone who's maybe new to that space, a man that's new to that space. And then after the class is complete, it's available to everybody for the rest of their lives. Mm-hmm. During the class, the part that I really enjoy about that is that the new guys, they get a chance to, if they're, you know, working on the tools throughout the week, or something related to the class happens in the week, or they were like, hey, you know what, I failed to do this I had the opportunity to use this tool, failed to use it successfully, I've got a ton of energy on it, can we, you know, for lack of better words, can we unpack this right now? They have that space to do that, knowing that they might get some feedback they don't want to hear, and it's okay because it's not malicious, not being weaponized against them to make them feel dumb or stupid or bad, or that, you know, oh, well, you clearly suck at this tool, sir, so better throw that right. It's rather, okay, here's some information on how to use this tool, and here's how you can possibly, the next time this comes around, use it this way, try it this way. And
absolutely.
I've had no end of moments in the corner that have landed on me later in the week, maybe right then and there, where it's I'm gonna sit and process what just happened, because somebody else's learning is now resonating in parallel to what's going on in my life, and it's just week after week after week, there's something there. Even if there's nothing there, there's something there. There's always something there.
What I always find fascinating, and I'm the facilitator, is the I didn't know that this happens in my life too, until somebody talked about it at the corner. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? So again, it's that not knowing, like, oh shit, I got another set of problems. God, thank you, Eddie. Thank you for bringing that up. You know, but it's true. It's like no wonder I'm not getting better results in this area. And I didn't know until Eddie mentioned that he's going through it. And so I always find that fascinating. And a very, very important part about King's Corner and Men to Kings is men, for those listeners out there, women and men listening to this, men are 3 times to 4 times more likely to be addicted to something, to commit suicide, and we're 3 to 4 times more likely to have mental health issues. And the reason, part of the reason, not all of it, but part of the reason is that men suffer in silence. We suffer in loneliness because we don't know how to process this thing called being a man and our emotions. And Saturday Calls is that space where we get to start processing those emotions and realizing, finally coming to the realization that I'm not alone in the world. Because if you ask most men and you get them in the right space and you ask them the question, do you often feel lonely? Most men will say yes. You know, do I? And I never really understood that, because I remember saying in therapy when I was in marriage counseling with my wife, we've been married for forever, and several dances with the idea of divorce. But I remember just throughout my marriage counseling, I would always say, I just feel alone. I just feel alone. And my wife just never understood it, you know, and I didn't understand it either, you know. Yeah. I just felt all alone, like, well, and logic would tell you, well, why do you feel alone when she's right there, right? And I was so freaking lonely, and it just made my anger worse, made my depression worse, and again, not understanding how to process these things that are called men, because men have feelings too. We just don't learn on how to. We never learn on how to process those things. So that's really important to even inject in this podcast. Is that's where I become passionate, because it's like I'm no longer feeling lonely, you know. Yeah. And then I get to see other men not feel so lonely anymore either. And then the new rooks, they come in, they're like, oh shit, I didn't know that I'm not alone in this. Like, yeah. I thought this problem was you know, exclusive to me, you know. And I love when I get that feedback, because I love it, because I know that they found home, right? They found a home that they can finally start processing these things and become healthier and heal. So,
and there's a beautiful situation in there as well. Like, I love the way that you made it mandatory that they attend. If they're doing Men to Kings, it's mandatory that they attend during their rook,
right,
the King's Corner. And one of the most powerful experiences I've had, especially via like Zoom or anything like that, was, I think, like my first King's Corner, and I was just shook afterwards. Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That's what these men are doing?
Right.
And I think it's important to also express that to anyone who does Men to Kings, anyone who's new to the idea of what it is, you're not going to go in there and just go, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me, I'm still doing the same shit. You will be held accountable. You will be called out by men who see those programs in you, who see those issues that you're having because they've dealt with them themselves. And it's not from a place of judgment. It is 100% a place to take that mask off of yourself and be raw with warriors that are wearing masks out in the world as well. Mm-hmm. And it's not a place where people are just gonna, you know, poo-poo and, you know, have a sad life expression.
Yeah. Yes, we're not hanging out at the water cooler for this.
No. I've even been checked. And again, I hate to throw this out there, but I'm making a point here. But I'm the founder and facilitator, and I've been checked even in this arena. So it happens, right? And what I always say, my favorite saying is, and I don't know if I say it enough inside, but I definitely do it when I'm talking on the outside to other men and women as well. I always say, it's the same movie, different actors.
Yeah.
And we end up finding out, once men join the class, they go, oh shit, like that's exactly what I'm going through. I'm like, yeah, it's a matrix. It's a movie reel. The only difference is it's a different actor. It's Eddie versus Ted. But there's a cycle in this called life, being a man, dealing with women, dealing with children, dealing with sons, daughters, friends, business. It all happens pretty similar. The difference is that Marlon Brando isn't behind the desk saying, let me give you what is it?
An offer you can't
Yeah,
refuse.
an offer you can't refuse. It's Ted, and so and it sounds a little different the way that I say it, but it's the same. It's the same issues. We really do go through the same issues.
I think one of the first moments that landed for me in that when I was taking the course is there was a time when I don't open up very much in that space,
Right.
And one of the times that I did, it was very early on, and you just simply asked a question. Anybody else show of hands, because this is on Zoom? Anybody else know what that feels like? Anybody else have experience in that space? And everybody in the call raised their hand. It's like, oh, I am not alone.
Right.
This is not unique to me. The the particulars around it might be unique to my timeline. However, the experience is not unique to me.
Yeah.
Right? Other people having these experiences based on their unique lives and their unique timelines. But it lands very, very hard, and I've seen other men in that space because I do it. After you do that to me, I do it to everybody else every time they're in that space. If they're new, I'll absolutely, hey, anybody else feel that way? Anybody else had that?
You know, it's a big one.
Every time it lands.
It's a big one in Mentor Kings. It's a big one outside of Mentor Kings. It's moms. Yeah. I always, with men, I always I always kind of approach their mom. Mm-hmm. Oh, no. I don't want to deal with her. Like, I'm done with her. Like, I've been done. I'm like, no, you're not. Or no, everything's good. Everything's good. No, not really. And then eventually we get into a deeper conversation, like, oh shit, I need to call my mom, or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. They process it, like they realize, oh shit, okay. So even me, for that matter, like I realized actually as a I recently learned for myself that I spent a lot of my life blaming my mom. Were you on that Saturday call? Yeah. I've spent almost all of my life blaming my mom. I had a lot of resentment towards my dad. However, I spent most of my anger towards my mom. And what I realized, just as of less than a month ago, was what I really was going through is the need and the want to have had that's what I was going through. Have my father in my life. Mm-hmm. It was so weird because I never processed it like that. It was just always my mom was the target of my aggression, and my dad was just more of an annoyance. And underneath it all, I realized it was neither. It was, I just wish my dad was in my life, and I realized how important that would have made, what an important difference it would have made in my life. And then finally I realized men need their. That's when it was. It was one of the other guys talking, and I was just like, men need their daddies, and that was a weird comment, right? Because we're all grown men. Right. We need our daddies, Sure, we need our moms, but it's proven. Households without their dad you're more prone to a lot of not so many good things, and so it was just a weird revelation. But those are the things that we talked about, right, on Saturday. So. And that wouldn't have probably happened outside of that call, And
I think one of the defining markers about you and the success that you've had, in and outside of personal development is you were thrown into this high stress fight or flight life, right? And mm-hmm. you had to adapt or die. And then you join the military, similar situation. You come out into the world, you're upset, you're angry, you're posturing, you're misguided, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
And then the key difference between you being, locked away in prison, you being just, and I'm not saying people in prison are pieces of shit, but you being a piece of shit or you not doing the things that you've done and the things that you've accomplished, the difference being is that you took this terrible situation, you adapted, and then you applied to it. And so, you didn't have your father around. You had a lot of resentment and angst towards him. And what did you do from there? You ended up creating a whole organization, a whole group, a whole course to help men to sort that stuff out. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I admire so much about you is that you can take a bad situation and go, well, that shit sandwich really made my breath stink. Mm-hmm. However, you know, I'm going to go brush my teeth and then I'm going to avoid eating shit sandwiches,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And like you have that warrior mentality and from a young age, and you wouldn't likely have that had you not had to go through the struggles that you went through. And like you went from being a single entity, one single man without a father, unhappy, angsty, judgy, angry, all that stuff, and now you're out here saving hundreds of men a year.
Mm-hmm.
And like kudos to you for being that warrior. So like I said, I was super excited when Brandon said that you'd come on the podcast. I appreciate you. If you want to give a shout out again to your website or anything else that you're working on.
Yeah, just www.men2kings.com. So yeah, love to have the conversation for those men that are listening. And women love the conversation too, because they're always like, how do I get my husband? And I'm like, that's a bad question. Like, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You know, I get that question all the time. I'm like, no, you don't want to. No. We may want to set him up, you know, like invite me to the family barbecue or something, but do not ask your husband to come to Men to Kings. It will not end well.
Right. I mean, it's, you know, I met you from Men to Kings. I met Brandon prior to Men to Kings. However, we didn't really connect until I was on those Kings Corners, and I was just like, I fucking love the way these men's brains operate. Like that's what I want to be. And like, I have always held you both in extremely high regard as having massive characteristics of being the man that I've always wanted to be. And so, you know, I love what you're doing. I want you to keep doing it. And I hope that if somebody's watching, they end up enrolling and doing the course and
awesome.
hopping on those corners, man.
Well, thank you for having me here.